Guys, I have a question to ask you all. Is there any mainline FNaF game that doesn't end with its restaurant shutting down? As early as FNaF 1, there's a poster on the wall that states how by year's end the business will close. In one of the endings of FNaF 2, a newspaper states how only after a few short weeks the restaurant is closing. Thankfully, in the endings of FNaF 3 and 6, the restaurants don't close because of any monetary issues. Instead, they were forced to shut down because they were burned to the ground. Even in the Steel Wool era games, the Freddy's locations meet the same fate. In Security Breach, by the time you make it to the DLC, the Pizzaplex is in ruin. Oh, that's why it's called that. While most people view all these closings and the incidents surrounding them as very tragic, I view it as a challenge. You think I can't make a worse pizzeria? Watch me. In FNaF 6, you get to design your very own Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and the game incentivizes you to make the best establishment you can. If you make a pizzeria with a high risk factor, you are likely to receive many lawsuits that eat away at your bank account. So what if the goal of my franchisee endeavors was to create the most sued and notorious Freddy Fazbear's Pizza the world has ever seen? A pizzeria so bad, it'd make poor people often tremble in his wee booties. I want to beat FNaF 6 while getting every single lawsuit possible. This challenge forces you to strategize in buying all the shady markdown items you possibly can to create the Krabby Land of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It forces you to go through some of the worst nighttime sections in FNaF history, pray to Scott Cawthon himself that you don't go bankrupt, and most of all, this challenge will make you become the next NBA superstar. This is the Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator Max Lawsuits Challenge. So before we begin, we should probably just get the question answered. How many lawsuits is it possible to get in one single run of FNaF 6? Well, thanks to a full breakdown of the game conducted by YouTuber It's Taken, the answer is made pretty easy to figure out. At the end of each day, you can get up to 3 new lawsuits, with the exception of Saturday. There's no end of day revenue screen on Saturday as you're most likely watching the pizzeria burn down then, so it's impossible to get sued, which means the max amount of lawsuits we can get are 15. You get sued by having a high risk factor in your pizzeria, which you obtain by buying risky attractions alongside markdown items. The higher your risk, the more likely you are to get sued. There's a bit more math that goes into the probability and chance for being sued, but we'll save that for later. For now, let's start our first attempt at making the worst ever Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Before I even got into making my own pizzeria, I noticed something incredibly strange on the title screen. Oh cool, my achievements carried over from real life! Anyways, just as a heads up, there's actually a way to get more starting money for your pizzeria before you even begin the game. In the 8-bit opening minigame, be sure to select the bottom 4 toppings for your pizza. This is a little Easter egg Scott Cawthon threw in. If you do this and complete the rest of the intro, you'll get $100 extra on Monday, putting you at $200 when you start the game. So I got to buying my first attractions and immediately noticed a problem. We need to get a high amount of risk as quickly as possible so we can start getting sued on the first day. But the first item catalog barely has any risky items. The only 2 items with risk are the Discount Ball Pit and Mr. Hugs, which both only have a liability risk of 1. You start the game with 3 risk already, but this leaves us with only 5 risk if we buy these 2 items. There are far riskier items in other catalogs we can purchase, but each of them require you to spend a certain amount of money before you can unlock them. Stan's Budget Tech takes $100 to unlock, Smiles and Servos takes $1,000, and the Rare Finds Auction takes $3,000. We simply don't have enough money to unlock all of these on day 1, which means we're locked out of animatronics that would do wonders for our risk. For example, we want to get Lefty as soon as possible to add 9 risk to our pizzeria, but he's only found in the Rare Finds Auction. Luckily, we can still do a few things to boost our income on day 1, such as taking a sponsorship which gives us $250 more to play around with. Unfortunately, because we took this sponsorship, I'm now forced to advertise for this stupid channel called the Dapper Waffle. So now that I'm binded by law to say this, please like his video and subscribe! Cue big smiley face on screen. Anyways, I was able to play some minigames which gave me enough money to unlock both Stan's Budget Tech alongside Smiles and Servos. But the Rare Finds Auction just seems too far off this early. Also, just as a heads up, we want to avoid buying anything for our pizzeria that increases our health and safety stat, as it'll take away from our total risk. For example, if we have 3 risk and buy the paper cups and plates which have a 1 in health and safety, it'll end up putting us at only 2 risk. The last purchase I made for my pizzeria was the Ladder Tower, which has a risk of 4, and ended the day with a total risk of 9. The nighttime segment for Monday shouldn't be very challenging. You've just got to do all your tasks on the terminal, and there's not any animatronics to fend off on this day. What was a challenge, though, was my complete and utter incompetence. I may have almost burned down the pizzeria. Twice. After that embarrassing display, I completed the salvage for Molten Freddy and finished the day with my first ever lawsuit. I should be happy about this. I mean, getting sued is the goal of the challenge after all. But I call chicanery on this lawsuit. This lawsuit I got states that a young girl witnessed the head of an animatronic fall off and roll across the ground. I don't know what kind of Saul Goodman lawsuit this is, but last time I checked, the only animatronic currently in my pizzeria is Mr. Hugs, who doesn't even have a head. But, okay, whatever. I'll settle the lawsuit and give you your money, even though there's absolutely zero chance this could have happened. I mean, what else could go wrong, right? Right? Oh, what the fuck? Let me just give you a playback of everything that happened on this day, so you can truly understand how horrible of a situation I was in. My goal for this day was simple: buy all the markdown items I could to up my risk as much as possible. Starting on Tuesday, 5 different items across all the catalogs are marked down, which makes them cheaper in exchange for upping the risk. But actually getting all 5 markdown items each day is a lot harder than it seems. Firstly, items can be marked down in catalogs you haven't unlocked yet, so it's likely I won't even have access to all 5 of them on Tuesday. So even if there's a fantastic sale on an item in the rare finds auction, I can't take advantage of it. Secondly, catalog items can get marked down even if you've already bought them. For example, I already bought Pan Stan on Monday, but on Tuesday he was marked down to $2 with 3 risk attached. Unfortunately, because I already bought him, I'm forever locked out of getting the riskier Pan Stan. But even if you have an item in your catalog that's both marked down and you can buy it, that doesn't mean it will always have bonus risk attached to it. Attractions you can't place can go on sale, but will never have any bonus liability added to them. For example, the security doors can be marked down, but since it isn't placeable, it'll never have any bonus risk added to it. Only placeable items and speakers can have risk added to them from sales. Essentially, we have to get incredibly lucky with what gets marked down in the catalog. If we've already bought the item, don't have access to it yet, or it's a non-placeable attraction, we can't get the bonus risk. But okay, whatever. This is really a practice run anyways, so us getting unlucky with markdowns right now isn't the end of the world. I really just wanted to practice money-making methods. I've been playing Midnight Motorist, but I know Fruit Punch Clown is one of the best ways to get cash. I'm aware Gravity Vortex gives you the most money per play out of all the minigames, but I'll save that one for the Bones 5. I don't have that kind of skill. So I started my attempts at Fruit Punch Clown, and I don't think I have ever hated a minigame more in my entire life. I'm sorry to all the Astral Spiff fans, but I think this game could genuinely be considered a form of torture in some countries. I know that's a wild claim to make, but just let me explain the situation I was in so it makes more sense. It's about 3 in the morning, and I'm in the middle of this practice attempt for the Max Lawsuits challenge. I start my first try at Fruit Punch Clown, and wait for all 10 balloon boys to bunch up in the middle. If you scare all 10 of them at once, you get a jackpot of 10,000 points, which equates to $1,000 per play. So there I waited, and waited, and waited some more. Their movement is entirely random, so there's no telling when all 10 will line up. All the while I'm watching them scamper about, this peaceful rendition of the Toreador March is playing, and I'm slowly getting a little sleepy. I've noticed all 10 balloon boys have lined up a few times, but I'm too tired to react fast enough. The music is lulling me to sleep, and I can't focus. Well, anyway, I know it's a really roundabout way of saying it, but I guess the whole point I'm trying to make here is I hate Fruit Punch Clown! That's all I'm really trying to say. The game forces you to have an immense amount of focus to win the jackpot every time, yet its music and boring nature actively fights against you, and puts you to sleep. Literally. So far, I've got to deal with the luck of getting good markdowns every day, alongside finding a way around playing Fruit Punch Clown for money. Because there is no way I'm playing this. It's a massive waste of time. But here's the thing. I haven't even told you guys the worst of it yet. The worst part isn't even in the Tycoon segment of the game. It's the office segments. You see, having a high risk in FNaF 6 doesn't just mean you'll get sued. If you have a lot of risk, it can also cause unwanted animatronics to sneak into the pizzeria. At the end of the Tycoon segment each day, all 4 hostile animatronics have a chance to sneak into the pizzeria early before you get to salvaging them. The odds for this happening is your total risk out of 50 for each one. For example, if you have a risk of 25, that means each animatronic has a 50-50 chance to sneak into your office early every night. If you play this game like a normal person, on night 2 you should only have to deal with Molten Freddy as you salvaged him the night prior. But if you're doing a stupid YouTube challenge like moi, you will more than likely have every single animatronic already in your pizzeria by night 2. You'll have to deal with an Afton family reunion, because Molten Freddy, Scrap Trap, Scrap Baby, and Lefty will have all gotten into your pizzeria, and the nights become incredibly difficult because of it. The worst part though is that if any animatronic sneaks into the pizzeria early, they become unable to be salvaged later. This means we'll miss out on a ton of money from not salvaging them, which could have been really helpful to keep our bank account afloat from the lawsuits. So in conclusion, we've got to deal with 3 new issues. Firstly, we have to make sure we get every single markdown possible to get max risk early. Secondly, we have to find a way to grind lots of money without playing Fruit Punch Clown. Thirdly, we have to make it through these incredibly difficult nights now that all the animatronics show up immediately. This is a lot of problems we've got to deal with, but I think for right now I'm only going to focus on solving the first 2. We can deal with the nighttime segments later. But first, we've got to be able to actually get enough risk and money to get every single lawsuit. So, I got to work on a route that gives us the best chance at getting good markdowns every single day, while also making us a ton of money. And after a while of working, this is what I cooked up. I went ahead and started a new save file on Monday, and got my $200 ready for buying. The new spending route I made consists of us buying as few items as possible, all at a very high price. We want to buy expensive items to spend enough money in order to unlock the later catalogs, while also buying as few things as possible to boost our odds of getting a markdown on something we don't own. Now, there's only one major flaw with this strategy, and that's the achievement system. In FNaF 6, if you buy all of the animatronics of a set, you get an achievement which rewards you with some extra cash. But because we're intentionally leaving things open to buy, we likely won't get any of these achievements, which means we're unfortunately missing out on a lot of money. Anyways, with my starting money, I bought Mr. Hugs, the Double Stage, Discount Ball Pit, and Paper Pals for a total of $125. This puts us at over $100 spent, which means we now have access to Stan's budget tech. I know Mr. Hugs and the Paper Pals weren't necessary to unlock the next catalog, as we would have been over $100 spent without them. I instead bought them because they'll benefit us in the long run. Mr. Hugs helps with adding extra liability early on, and even if the Paper Pals are marked down later down the road, they can't give us extra risk because they aren't placeable. They'll instead help us with giving the restaurant atmosphere, which in the long run will help give the business extra revenue at the end of each day to pay off lawsuits later. After buying these items, accept the Fizz Time Pop Soda sponsorship for $250, and purchase Midnight Motorist. Now, Midnight Motorist may be the most divisive minigame in all of FNaF history. Tons and tons of theories have sprouted up, trying to figure out what it means and how it ties into the lore. Well, I'm here to tell you that all these theories are complete hoopla, and the answer is more simple than you think. The plot of this game is that William Afton gets kicked out of his favorite bar because he's had too much to drink. Mad at the world because he can't have another sip of his Miller Lite, he thinks it'd be fun to go drunk driving at 200 miles an hour on the freeway to blow off some steam. After all, William Afton is a drunk driver, not a drunk crasher. Only drunk crashers get into accidents, and he is not a drunk crasher. For this minigame, sometimes the patterns of the cars can be difficult to get around without getting hit, but my drunk driving was so good that it even made J-Schlapp proud. You'll want to play this minigame a total of 5 times. If you've done well enough in Midnight Motorist, you should have enough money to buy most of the items you need on Monday. Spend $200 to get the Sturdy Stage, Ned Bear for $260, and Candy Cadet for $310. This should put you at just over $1,000 spent, which means you'll now have access to Smiles and Servos. Also, Ned Bear gives us an extra 1 risk, which puts our total risk at 6. By this point in the challenge, I still wasn't aware of any minigame that I could play instead of Fruit Punch Clown. More specifically, one that could give me a similar amount of cash. We're gonna need lots of money to pay off these lawsuits, and minigames like Midnight Motorist won't give us enough. This isn't helped by the fact that we're missing out on money from both the salvages and achievements as well. I thought I'd just be doomed to play Fruit Punch Clown. Until I saw my sunshine. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. Oh, my eyes! Carnival Hoops is a pretty forgotten minigame in FNaF 6, and I think that's a crime. The entire minigame involves you training Helpy to become the next LeBron James, as you try to make 20 baskets under the time limit in order to get the jackpot of 5,000 points. This 5,000 point jackpot equates to $500 for winning the minigame every single time. While you do get less money for a perfect game compared to Fruit Punch Clown, it is still well worth it to play Carnival Hoops, just so you don't have to deal with that orangey nightmare ever again. The minigame involves zero luck, and it isn't even super challenging to win the jackpot every time once you get some practice in. It is a very consistent minigame, which means you'll be making over $5,000 off of it every single day if you win the jackpot on each attempt. Carnival Hoops will be especially helpful in being able to pay off all the future lawsuits and legal troubles we'll find ourselves in. So for the rest of the challenge, I will be spending all of my play tokens each day just on Carnival Hoops. I ended Monday by buying the ladder tower instead of the ball pit tower, which put our total risk at 10. The nighttime segment wasn't anything to worry about, and the salvage wasn't either. At least, it shouldn't have been. I may or may not have messed it up completely. I missed out on $500 for losing the salvage, but honestly in the long run, it isn't a big worry. I can make that up with just one jackpot of Carnival Hoops. I ended the day with just one new lawsuit, but thanks to the revenue our restaurant made that day, I was barely able to pay it off. Now, before we continue, I should probably address the elephant in the room. You may remember me stating how each day you can get a max of 3 lawsuits, which means the total amount of lawsuits you can get is 15. So if I only got 1 lawsuit on Monday, shouldn't I reset and try again? Well, this is where we need to get realistic. The equation that calculates if you get sued at the end of every day looks like this. It plugs in your total risk, subtracts 1 from it, and makes it an out of 50 chance. This equation can show you the actual mathematical odds that you get sued each day, and it runs 3 separate times, once for each potential lawsuit. So today, because we had a risk of 10, each of the 3 lawsuits had a 9 out of 50 chance of showing up, as we have to subtract 1 from our total risk. If we consistently get to 10 risk for each attempt on Monday, that means we have to hit 9 out of 50 odds 3 times in a row. The odds for this happening is 0.5832%, also known as roughly a 1 in 171 chance to get all 3 lawsuits. These odds don't seem horrible until you take in the fact that to get an attempt with all 3 lawsuits on Monday going, you would have to play through the intro, do the Tycoon segment, do all the minigames, do the nighttime segment, and salvage Molten Freddy an average of 171 times. It could potentially take days to just get 1 attempt going, and that doesn't even guarantee that you'll get every lawsuit in the future. At the end of the day, we're fighting to make the best odds for getting sued, but it's usually never a guarantee we actually will. While I do think it's possible to get every single lawsuit, and have enough money on Monday to pay all 3 of them off, I simply don't have the time to grind that out. At this point, I decided to pivot the goal of this challenge, just to make it a bit more realistic. I still want to make the worst Freddy Fazbear's pizza, so I decided that I should try and hit 12 out of 15 lawsuits. While not the max amount you could get, this new goal makes the early game a lot more forgiving, as I won't be grinding for days on end trying to get a 3 lawsuit Monday. Though, since I'm intentionally missing out on some of Monday's lawsuits to save time, this means I still have to play Tuesday onwards almost perfectly. The max amount I can get now is only 13 out of 15. This means for the next 4 days, I can only miss out on 1 single lawsuit. Anything more and I'll fall short of the goal. I've never even seen anyone hit double digits on lawsuits before, so even if I'm not going for the max, I'll still set the record. And so, with only 1 point of extra credit remaining, I moved on to the next day. Getting back on track, Tuesday's markdowns weren't very promising at first. Our first markdown was the paper cups and plates, which didn't have any bonus risk added to them. The second were the security doors, which also had no bonus risk as they aren't placeable. Things didn't seem very hopeful, until I saw my third markdown. The fact that I chose purchasing the ladder tower over the ball pit tower on Monday turned out to be one of the greatest blessings I could ever ask for. The ball pit tower already comes with a liability risk of 3, but because it was marked down to a terrible condition, its liability was added onto even more. For only $150, I could get 7 more liability for the pizzeria. You're the most beautiful OSHA violation I've ever seen. I bought the ball pit tower, and for my 4th markdown item, it was none other than Fruit Punch Clown. Fine, I'll buy Fruit Punch Clown. But only because his Fruit Punch is definitely contaminated and a health hazard. I went ahead and used all my play tokens on Carnival Hoops, and won 8 out of 10 jackpots. I then bought the deluxe concert stage in order to unlock the rare finds auction, which means I finally have access to purchasing Lefty. Although, I forget how much Lefty actually costs. Care to help me out, Markiplier?
Lefty is $5!
Thanks, Mark. I bought Lefty for $5 whole in order to add 9 risk to the pizzeria. And this decision totally won't come to haunt me later. I ended the day by expanding the pizzeria, taking the sponsorship for $500, and placing down all my new attractions. By the end of Tuesday, I already had a risk of 29. And now, with the Tycoon segment over with on Tuesday, it was time for the hardest part of this challenge. Yes, you read that correctly. I've never actually played a legitimate Five Nights at Freddy's game before. There's a reason why my channel has been solely focused on FNaF World content as of recent, because that's the only one I've ever played. I've never played FNaF 1 through 7, Security Breach, or even any of the VR games. My entire experience with the mainline entries has only been watching other people play them. I have never played a single night of FNaF myself until this video, so getting through these difficult nights of FNaF 6 was definitely an uphill battle. And at first, I didn't even know if I'd be able to do it. Because we bought Lefty on Tuesday, he's guaranteed to be in the office alongside Molten Freddy on night 2. And thanks to our high risk, we also have to deal with Scrap Trap and Scrap Baby as both have snuck into the pizzeria. So essentially, for every future night, we have to select and wait for each of these tasks to finish in our computer before we can leave. But, while we wait for these, every single animatronic is coming to kill us, and we have to deal with these pop-up ads from the sponsorships we took. Before continuing this challenge, I started up a separate save for the office segment just for practice purposes. My first attempts did not look promising. I was able to get a few tasks done, but the amount of animatronics I had to deal with was just too overwhelming, and I kept dying pretty early. I tried to look up strategies on how to beat the office sections of this game on YouTube, but nothing really seemed to work for me, and I just kept dying over and over. So, if I can't win the minigame with someone else's strategy, why don't I just make my own? After tons of work and research, I was able to come up with my very own The Dapper Waffle approved strategy on beating these increased difficulty nights of FNaF 6. Before I explain my strategy, I want to give a big shout out to the Bones5 and his AI breakdown of the game. I don't think I'd be able to come up with this strategy without his video, so big thanks to him. So here's the deal. When the night starts, you'll want to immediately place an audio lure at the top of the vents. This is so you can hopefully buy yourself enough time to finish your first order supplies task. Once your first task is done, immediately turn silent ventilation on and turn off your fan. The main goal of this strategy is to complete tasks on your terminal while you intentionally let the office slowly heat up. Because the fan is turned off, it's much easier to hear any vent noises. If you hear a noise that sounds something like this, shine your flashlight in the corresponding vent for 4 seconds to make the animatronic go away. After a little while, your office will hit about 100 degrees, and it'll feel like this girl is on fire. When this happens, switch the terminal off and turn back on the fan to cool the room down. Once you get back down to 60 to 70 degrees, turn the fan off, the terminal back on, and continue doing tasks. Rinse and repeat this cycle until you complete every single task, and then log off to win the night. Unfortunately, this strategy won't work every single time, as sometimes the game will just decide that you lose. Because we took multiple sponsorships for money, sometimes an ad will play on the terminal, and we get locked into waiting for it to finish before being able to do anything else. While you wait for the ad to finish, sometimes an animatronic will jump scare you, and there's nothing you can do. I'm dead. The best advice I have for when you get an ad is to close it as soon as possible. Then shut everything off and face a vent. Because of the loud music the ad plays, it's basically impossible to hear vent noises, so you'll never know if an animatronic is close by your office. So many times I've seen people try and rush a task once it's over, and die because of it. Just always assume something is close by and take a guess as to which vent they're in. Also, sometimes the animatronics will hit you with the wombo combo and attack you at the same time in both vents.
Fascinating.
Dude! My best advice for this is to immediately shut everything off and face a vent with your flashlight. By facing a vent, you prevent one of the animatronics from jump scaring you. And because you shut everything off, the other one is unlikely to hear you in your office and move away. With this new plan in action, my attempts into night 2 were slowly becoming better and better, and I started to complete more tasks on each attempt. After about an hour of attempts, I had made it all the way to my last task of the night, but unfortunately my office was really heating up. At this moment I decided to not turn my fan on, and instead rush rush the task and log out before I died from the office hitting 120 degrees. This rush to complete the last task culminated into this moment. Oh my god! What? No, I logged out! No! No! Even though I had clicked log out, the temperature was still too much to bear and I died as the screen started to fade to black. I was pretty upset by this, as I had literally completed the night, but I still died afterwards. But something really strange happened once I reopened the save file.
Before you is an animatronic found in the back alley. It is your job to complete the maintenance check.
Wait, that counts?! Wait, I won?! What? I think I hit like log out the frame I passed out. What?! For some reason, the game still counted this as a victory, even though I passed out in the office. And I was on the salvage section of Tuesday. I have never seen this glitch documented anywhere on the internet before, so I may be the first person to discover it. Though, since I was passed out in the office and the fan was turned off, there really wasn't anything stopping the building from just getting even hotter to the point where it was set ablaze. Who needs the completionist ending on Saturday? I got all the animatronics together and burned the building down on Tuesday. Get on my level, Henry Emily. Even though I had completed the night, I still had to do it on my actual save file as this was only a practice one. But after a few more jump scares, I had gotten my winning run. Unfortunately, as stated before, because all the animatronics are in the office early, we can't salvage any of them for money. Therefore, we'll be greeted by this winking sign on every future night. To my knowledge, this sign has no canonical name, but for this playthrough, we'll just call him Schmingle Dingle. Also, I know this isn't super important to the challenge itself, but the narrator for this game is really getting on my nerves. Every time I finish a night in this game, he always says his same annoying line.
Don't forget Saturday. You want them all to be in one place.
They're all here already! Anyways, I was really nervous going into the end of day screen for Tuesday. I wanted to get all 3 lawsuits here, but my risk was only at 29. If we plug our total risk into our lawsuit equation, it means we only have around a 1 in 6 chance to get all 3. It's likely our point of extra credit will be eaten here, and we'll only get 2 lawsuits. This means at most we'll only be able to get 12 out of 15 lawsuits. And if we miss another later, we'll fall short of our goal. Our odds weren't looking promising. But not impossible. Unfortunately, we got hit with a pretty expensive first lawsuit, as we had our very own version of the Bite of 87 take place. Of course, I don't want to scare any customers away from the restaurant because of this, so I'm going to give this incident a nicer sounding name. From now on, we'll refer to this event as the Nibble of 25. I decided to not settle this lawsuit, but instead fight it for a cheaper amount. I don't expect to win it, but I chose to do this so I can settle it later on Wednesday when we have more money to play around with. I settled the next 2 cases, and finished Tuesday out with 4 out of 15 total lawsuits. For the rest of the challenge, there really isn't anything new we have to deal with. The next few days consist of us buying more markdown items, while dealing with harder office sections over time. The 5 markdown items of Wednesday were pretty terrible, to be honest. The colorful cups and plates, foil party set, and confetti tile floor were all marked down, but there was no added risk to them because they aren't placeable. This left us with just 1 new markdown item, which was Rockstar Chica, who had 3 risk. Thankfully, I was able to win 8 out of 10 jackpots on carnival hoops this day, which got me just enough money to afford the deluxe ball pit to add 4 risk to the restaurant. I ended the Tycoon segment with 36 total risk, and went on to the office segment. Nothing really changes on these nights compared to Tuesday, except for the fact that now the animatronics can move faster than before. Still, the fact that I've never played an actual FNaF game up until this point was still showing, and I ended up getting really spooked by the first jump scare I got. Oh! Luckily, I was able to beat Wednesday's office section on only my 2nd try, and was yet again greeted by Schmingle Dingle. Unfortunately, at the end of this night, I fell short of my 3 lawsuit goal, and only ended up with 2. Our point of extra credit was taken away, which means we have to get all 6 lawsuits from the last 2 days. I settled the expensive lawsuit from Tuesday, and almost went bankrupt paying off the last 2. Before we continue, I want you all to take a mental note of what this last lawsuit says. He fell from a ride, stood up, and fell down again. It took the staff over 30 minutes to care. Trust me, it'll come up later. Thursday arrived, and yet again, our markdowns were pretty horrible. Most of them were stuff we've already bought, or things that can't have risk added to them. The sales weren't looking great, until I combed through the rare finds auction and found Matt Pat's favorite animatronic on sale.
Oh! Oh yeah! Music Man!
Even though he was still almost $5,000, my carnival hoop skills were on point, and I won 9 out of 10 jackpots. This got me just enough money to buy him, and I ended Thursday with 40 risk, which meant I was now on to the office segment.
How can I resist a promise such as this?
I swear if he's in the left vent, I'm gonna scream. Eventually, I was able to beat the night, and was greeted by Schmingle Dingle. My man! You know, when this restaurant eventually burns to the ground, I've really got to make sure to get Schmingle Dingle out of here. He's such a nice face to see after these scary office sections. Anyways, I was luckily able to close out this day with all 3 lawsuits, so the run lives on. The contents of the lawsuits themselves weren't super noteworthy, until I got to the last one. He contracted multiple parasites from consumption of food and beverages prepared at Fazbear Entertainment Inc. business. He ate a lunch late. He fell from a ride, stood up, and fell down again. It took the staff over 30 minutes to care. I have gotten sued so much to the point that I'm starting to get repeats, as this is the same exact lawsuit I got on Wednesday. The game only has 10 different lawsuits you can get, so at this point we're bound to get duplicates. I settled all of them, and closed out Thursday with a lawsuit total of 9 out of 15. If we get all 3 on Friday, we'll just barely meet our goal of 12 out of 15 lawsuits. And so, I clocked in for my last shift, and gave my customers the worst Freddy Fazbear's pizza experience they'll ever have. You guys know the drill by now. I got unlucky with markdowns and went D1 in carnival hoops. The only thing I was really able to buy this day was the deluxe speaker set for a bonus 4 liability risk, which set our total risk at the end of the Tycoon segment at 44. All we can do now is pray that we get all 3 lawsuits. Now, I was honestly expecting the office segment of this day to take me forever to complete. While the animatronics don't move every 2 seconds like they can on Saturday, they instead move every 2.5 seconds, which is a pretty close amount difficulty-wise. This night isn't helped by the fact that I've taken 4 sponsorships by now, so I'm likely to just get unlucky and die. But I think on this night, all the skills I had learned over the course of this challenge culminated into one perfect attempt. I had gone from never playing an actual FNaF game in my life to tracking all 4 animatronics in the vents like a champ. I was dealing with the ads properly and keeping my cool. Both literally keeping the office cool and just playing the night really patiently. And finally, after about 9 minutes of playing the best FNaF of my life... I first tried that! I just first tried that! Oh my god! I beat Friday on my very first try. All that was left was to see how many lawsuits I got on this day, and add up the total. "12 out of 15 lawsuits! Oh my god! Yes! I did it! I had beaten Friday with max lawsuits, which meant I finished my endeavor as a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza franchisee with 12 out of 15 total lawsuits. While not a perfect lawsuit run, I'm still happy with my performance, as I'm pretty sure this is the most that anyone has ever gotten. Though, I'm still curious. What specifically did I get sued for on this last day? This one again? Oh my god, I've gotten this one like 4 times. Each of the 3 lawsuits were the same exact one. So, let me put this into perspective for you all, so you can truly understand how rare this moment is. As stated before, there are 10 different lawsuits you can receive in FNaF 6, which means getting this specific lawsuit is only a 1 in 10 chance. The last lawsuit of Thursday was also the same exact one, which means I got it back to back to back to back. Since the odds of getting this lawsuit are a 1 in 10, that means getting it 4 times in a row is only a 1 in 10,000 chance of happening. I also got this same lawsuit on Wednesday, Wednesday. So that means I got it 5 separate times in one playthrough. I don't think I will ever hit crazier odds for a YouTube video in the future. This is honestly the coolest part of this run to me. Just imagining the fact that a kid fell off my unsafe attractions and nobody cared 5 separate times is really funny to me. This whole situation just makes me think of that one photo of Kendrick Lamar at the Grammys holding all 5 of his awards for his diss track Not Like Us. But instead of Kendrick, it's me holding all 5 of my lawsuits from this one snot-nosed brat. I am the bigger hater. And with that, I have now made the most horrible and notorious Freddy Fazbear's pizza the world has ever seen. All that's left to do now is to watch Henry Emily burn down the entire pizzeria alongside everything with it. You know, I wonder if I left anything important in there. Honestly, I don't really care about any of those animatronics or attractions. I mean, the only person I really cared about in that building was... Oh my god. No, I forgot to get him out of there!
Smeagol Dingle! I gotta get out of there! Smeagol Dingle! Smeagol Dingle, I gotta get out! No!
And for a while, that's where everything ended. 12 out of 15 lawsuits, Schmingle Dingle burned, and nothing more. That is... until now. I've recently discovered a way to get all 15 lawsuits in FNaF 6 super easily. You see, we've looked at this challenge all wrong. We need to cheat. Now, I don't want to drag out this segment for very long, but recently I've become aware of a glitch that makes this challenge super duper easy. Something I want to correct from earlier in this video is that you can actually purchase Lefty on Monday with the item route we made. You just have to play Midnight Motorist and Carnival Hoops perfectly. You'll even have enough money left over to pay off all 3 of Monday's lawsuits, if you end up getting cheap ones. Once you buy Lefty and place him down, click on the catalog menu. While the screen is fading out, you can click the X to remove Lefty. Once you do this, you can return to the pizzeria. If you time it properly, when you load back in, Lefty will be gone, but his risk will still remain. You can then place Lefty back down, get more risk, and repeat the process. Essentially, this is a bug that lets you duplicate the stats of any item in your pizzeria over and over again. With this glitch, you're able to reach 50 risk on day 1 by repeating it multiple times, which means for the rest of the challenge, you will always have a 100% chance to get every single lawsuit. This essentially just lets you complete the challenge while taking out the biggest obstacle, the RNG of getting lawsuits. And so, before anyone else does it, I got max lawsuits on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, completing my glitch save file with 15 out of 15 lawsuits, the first to ever do it. While not a truly legitimate run of this challenge, I thought it'd be cool to complete just to say I did end up getting every single lawsuit. Though, this whole fiasco leaves me with just one question. Usually, no animatronics are in your office on day 1, and you're just left by yourself to finish up your tasks and get a feel for how the office works. But if we get 50 risk on day 1, shouldn't it guarantee that every animatronic's there? They would all have a 100% chance to sneak into the pizzeria on day 1. Although I'm unsure if the game is hard-coded to never have any animatronics on Monday. And so, I decided to check. Nothing can be in the vents in day 1. Like, I have max risk and Lefty, nothing is gonna show up. Nothing showing up here. Nothing. Later. Was that something in the vent? Jarvis, scan the- Ah!